The year was 1216 CE, and a detachment of Mongols campaigned westward out of Mongolia and into Central Asia. They were in aggressive pursuit of Kublai, leader of the Naiman tribe, who had allied with Genghis Khan's rival, Jamukha. The Khan had quickly dispatched their combined armies, forcing Kublai to seek refuge among the Kara-Kitai. Kublai usurped the Kara-Kitai throne and attacked a Karluk tribal confederacy that appealed to Genghis Khan for protection. Genghis Khan deployed 30,000 troops to track down this troublesome renegade. By 1218, Kublai had fled south towards the Pamir Mountains in modern-day Afghanistan. Eventually, Mongol general Jebe caught up with Kublai and executed him. The pursuit of Kublai inadvertently brought the Mongols into Central Asia, leading to their conquest of the region. Central Asia displayed a remarkable ability to embrace foreign influences, internalizing them and making them its own. Situated at the crossroads of many empires, Central Asia connected the Orient to the Occident along the Great Silk Road. External forces saturated the area and shaped the course of its history. Central Asia lacks distinct topographical features to delineate boundaries. However, it has several broad geographical zones. The most well-known area is the Great Eurasian Steppe, a grassland stretching from Eastern Europe through Mongolia, where nomadic horse cultures flourished. To the south of the steppe lies Transoxiana, a dry region beyond the Oxus River, now known as the Amu Darya, where trade settlements and agriculture developed. Farther south is Khorasan, the cultural capital of Persia before the Mongol invasion. Nomadic migration was the first major external influence on Central Asia, beginning with the Xiongnu around 209 BCE. Steppe peoples migrated from Mongolia into Central Asia, altering the region's ethnic makeup from predominantly Persian and Indo-European to Turkic. These migrations were a conquest rather than a trade diaspora, pushing Persian groups to the fringes and Turkifying the area. These Turkic tribesmen divided their society into 5 strata. The royal tribal clan presided over the social order. The dominant group bestowed its name on the tribal confederation, a collection of tribes. Positioned below them were their allies and associated tribes, followed by common herders who did not participate in power struggles. Lower still were artisans like blacksmiths and leatherworkers, and at the bottom were slaves, often captured in war. These Turkic wanderers formed an unstable confederation of clans under a Khagan, a charismatic monarch claiming divine providence. Khagan maintained group cohesion through charisma and political smarts, but confederations were often volatile. Under strong Khagans, they wielded incredible power, but often imploded after a leader's death, leading to brutal struggles for power. Victorious tribes remained in Mongolia on the Orkhon steppe, while the losers migrated to the north, south, or west. The Khaganate lacked a clear transition of power, allowing any member to ascend by demonstrating charisma and martial skills. Periodic Turkic migrations transformed Central Asia's sedentary culture, adopting pastoral nomadism centered around herding. Their utilitarian culture provided necessities for life on the plains, including food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. In the spring, the nomads made a 10-day trip to graze their herds on fresh grass that emerged from mountain runoff. The women and children erected a central camp with 4 yurts, while the men divided the flocks into specific pastures. They established about 10 satellite camps around the central camp, minimizing threats to their herds. During summer, they traveled to mid-mountain fields, covering about 10 miles per day to reach their campground in 50 days. In the fall, they returned to the steppe to prepare for winter, drying and preserving meat and taking milk from their animals. Enhanced mobility was key to their survival, allowing them to retreat quickly from attacks or disasters. The annual Great Hunt served as a military proving ground, honing their fighting skills. Tribes deployed mounted men to drive animals inward, learning to coordinate movements with arrows and whistling patterns. Nomad society could wage war effectively, using horseback shooting to overcome slower armies. They carried portable, recurve bows capable of piercing armor from over 450 meters, enabling rapid fire. These sturdy mounts displayed impressive endurance and allowed groups to traverse great distances, often up to 160 kilometers per day. The speed with which they could cover territory on their steeds often confused sedentary forces and multiplied the terror factor. Native to the region, these horses were able to forage for themselves and survive on their own. Nomads did not require supply lines. The combination of skills acquired from herding, the double compound bow, and the Mongol horse translated to a formula for political domination. Turkic domination began on the battlefield, where the strategies of steppe warfare proved devastating to infantry-based armies. The first stage of the nomad battle strategy often commenced with a feigned retreat, engaging the adversary and encouraging pursuit. This technique lengthened the lines of their challengers as they pursued the retreating Turkic cavalrymen who shot backwards. The next stage involved outflanking the enemy, showering foes with arrows to pin them in place. Turkic horsemen were reluctant to risk fighting an enemy they could not defeat, often resorting to poisoning wells and retreating. Islam was not the first foreign religion to arrive in Central Asia. The region had been exposed to many belief systems before the 7th century. Local merchants along the Silk Road came into contact with various religious doctrines, facilitating the exchange of ideas. The Mongols greatly expanded into Central Asia during the 13th century, reuniting with Turkic groups expelled from the Orkhon steppe. The Mongols confronted many Turkic peoples who had radically altered their existence and adopted a stationary way of life. Forces indigenous to the region shaped the world around it. Foreign influence waned as a consequence of nativism. The Mongols created the largest empire in history, expanding deep into Russia, China, India, and the Middle East despite their own divisiveness. It was Temujin, later known as Genghis Khan, who united the fractured Mongol tribes and developed a lasting method of governance. Born into the aristocratic Borjigin clan, Temujin's success was related to his convictions and personal charisma. Temujin aimed to claim universal lordship, subjugating local clans and forming a marriage alliance with Berta Ujin. After rescuing his wife from the Merkit tribe, Temujin faced challenges, including being outnumbered by opponents. It was Temujin, later known as Genghis Khan, who brought fractured people together and developed a method of governance that lasted long after his death. Born into the aristocratic Borjigin clan, Temujin's success was related to his convictions and personal charisma. Temujin was inspired to achieve greatness, believing he was predestined to be a ruler on earth. Through a series of fights, he subjugated local clans in eastern Mongolia and expanded his control through a marriage alliance. After his wife Berta was kidnapped, Temujin heroically rescued her, leading to the birth of their son Juchi. Despite early successes, Temujin faced overwhelming odds and retreated to the heights of Baljuna, rallying his followers. He demanded total allegiance and promised glory to his supporters, leading to the unification of the Mongols. Temujin promoted allies based on merit, gaining an advantage over his opponents who were caught in internal squabbles. By 1206, Temujin emerged victorious, culminating in his ascendancy as a leader. Temujin adopted the name of Genghis Khan, or universal ruler in this context. Genghis Khan presided over peoples who had experienced near-constant warfare since 1160. He consolidated all of these diverse tribes and reshaped them into a single nation, endowing Mongol society with more cohesiveness. Genghis Khan charged each of his commanders with a tribal unit responsible for controlling pastures and fielding soldiers. By forcing men from one tribe to guard the pastures of others, he weakened loyalty to ancestral lines. Genghis Khan represented the ultimate source of justice, consolidating his position and making it more authoritarian. His law, known as Yasa, originated as decrees delivered during war and adapted to changing circumstances. Yasa served as the social and political formula binding all Mongols together, strengthening their identity.